Welcome to Time for Health. I'm your host, Rachel Fall, and we're very glad you've joined us as always. Every time we get together, we have a different topic that we learn something about. We have experts in the community that come and share information with us. So sit back and listen and maybe take some notes to share with other people. As always, don't necessarily use this information as medical advice for yourself. You're always going to want to talk to your primary care provider first before you make any changes to lifestyle or anything like that. But you probably won't have to worry about that today. We are talking about developmental disabilities in Ottawa County, and we have Margaret Osborne and Jim Crist here with us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You work with the Ottawa County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Correct.
So people will hear us say DD,
Yep.
which means Developmental Disabilities, or Board of DD, which is the board you work for, right?
Correct.
Okay, very cool. So how did boards of developmental disabilities, I'm sure they exist elsewhere other than Ottawa County, how did they all start, or where and when did they all start?
Right. So there is a county board of developmental disabilities in all 88 counties within Ohio. And for Ottawa County, in 1960, the Association for Retarded Children established created a class for the mentally retarded. And it was estimated at that time that there was around 50 children in Ottawa County that could receive services through the county board. And many children in the area received services from the schools in Sandusky and Fremont areas at that time. In 1960, the association actually created a classroom that was housed in the basement of the Oak Harbor Legion Hall.
Okay.
And so they hired a teacher and began some services for children there. And then in 1964, then the school actually was moved out to the former county home,
Okay.
which then at that time the actual nursing home had built a new home and had moved over there, so it left that building empty. And there were 19 individuals enrolled in the school at that time. And then in 1972, after a levy was put on the ballot and some bonds, they were able to build what was called Riverview School. And Riverview School actually housed specialized classrooms and a home living room for individuals with developmental disabilities. And the home living room actually prepared some of our individuals that eventually may live on their own,
Okay.
and giving them some home skills
Okay.
to be able to be on their own. In 1992 was when Riverview Schools actually closed their operations for school, and at that time then services were actually integrated into the local school systems.
Okay. I kind of remember that.
So
Okay. So the services were, it wasn't residential, people didn't live there, it was
No.
more of a school
No,
atmosphere?
it was basically
or
school and workshop type of things, like
Okay.
work skills, daily living skills. When Margaret was talking about the creation of county boards, prior to that, it was like a grassroots effort by the family and the parents
Okay.
to educate the children. And then Senate Bill 169 actually created the County Board of DD system.
Okay.
So currently, we draw down funds from local levy dollars, state money, federal money,
Okay.
to help support that.
And there were, 19 or 20 children in this
initially
60?
19,
Okay.
right. And Ottawa County actually was really at the forefront in the state of Ohio, because by creating this school, it kind of ended that segregation of children with disabilities and allowing them to attend schools with their peers. So when they, integrated into the school system, it kind of, we were the lead,
Oh, nice.
in
Very
Ohio.
cool.
So
Okay.
And just a little bit more on that, what we've seen as, between 1960 and now, there's been a bigger push for deinstitutionalization, there's been a bigger push for people to be served in the community, which increased the number of people that we actually work with and we actually see. When Margaret was talking about just some of the inclusion and self-advocacy, self-determination, those are big pieces that led to basically children being included in their regional schools and local
Gotcha.
schools.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So who does the Board of Developmental Disabilities serve? Is it all school-age students, or it kind of
We work with people
ranges?
birth through end of life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anybody.
Anybody and everybody.
Okay, and but there needs to be a diagnosis of a developmental disability. Talk about how that happens.
It's actually, for eligibility determination, it's kind of a two-pronged test. You have to have a qualifying diagnosis, and you have to have like a delay or a substantial functional limitation.
Okay.
Some of the qualifying diagnosis, obviously Down syndrome, intellectual disability, traumatic brain injury, Prader-Willi, Rett's disorder, pervasive developmental disorders,
All kinds of
epilepsy,
things that we've never
seizure
heard of, but you
disorders.
guys know about. So
And that by no means is an all-encompassing list.
Gotcha.
But one of the things that you have to look at is it has to have existed prior to the age of 22, because it
Okay.
has to be lifelong. So they're
Right.
looking at something that occurred during the developmental years. The outlook on it has to be that it's going to go on forever.
Okay.
So once again, it would have to be lifelong. In addition, for example, birth through 3, they have to have one delay. When you hit 3 through 6, there needs to be 2 evident delays.
Okay.
And then when you hit 6 through adult, you have to have 3 delays in certain areas. And they just call them substantial functional limitations.
Gotcha.
They're in the areas of mobility, receptive expressive language, self-care, economic self-sufficiency. So they actually use a test developed by the state to determine it. It's just like an adaptive functioning test.
Okay.
So it sounds bad, but you have to fail the test in order to pass.
Gotcha. Okay. So, does a mom say, I think my child has Rett's disorder, or I'm not sure, I don't even remember the ones that you said, but how does somebody get hooked up to the system?
I'm going to let Margaret go with the EI portion of it. 'Cause
Okay.
they, in a sense, they get referrals different than we would as
Okay.
adults and children.
Okay.
So I work in the early intervention department, which serves children birth to age 3
Okay.
who have a developmental disability or a diagnosed delay that might require them to be in need of some services.
Okay.
And so what we do is the referrals come in from doctor's offices or families call us and they say, hey, we have a concern with development. And we link them up with a service coordinator who goes out and talks to the family about the services that we provide. And we schedule a developmental evaluation with the family and the child. And we look at all the areas of development and look and see where the child has some needs. And if there are delays, then we talk to the family about what those services are that we would recommend to them to help promote their development. And then if the family chooses to accept our services, then we have a team of individuals that we can link the family with and give them the best team player to kind of work with their child in the home. So we have 2 developmental specialists who are kind of an expert in all the areas of development, but then we also have a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech and language pathologist, a vision specialist, and an audiologist.
Wow.
So we have all of those people on board to kind of help that child in their child's development. And then we do all the services right in the home because it's the most natural environment for the child. They're around their surroundings and their toys, things like that. And but we can also go to anywhere in the community that the family feels they may need some help with. So if it's the grocery store, we can go there. We can go to the park. We can go to daycares. So any kind of environment that the child is,
Could use
goes
some
to.
help.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so then when a child's in our program, then around the age of 2.5, we work with the family and see if by chance that they are going to qualify for services at the age of 3. And so we will link them with the school district in which they live. So for here, Port Clinton, we would link them with Port Clinton School District, and they would go through what's called a play-based assessment. And if the child shows delay in that play-based assessment, they are offered services through the school district, meaning that they could be eligible for some specialized preschool. And then continue on with services through there, and an IEP through the school system.
So you kind of make that transition, smooth it through
Yeah,
for them.
at age 3.
Okay. And so you work with them, like you said, doctor's offices, a babysitter, a parent, and whoever can kind of make a referral. Doesn't have to be a physician referral or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
And then it's the professionals that go out to do the evaluation, and then they kind of guide them. Do you need a doctor's visit, or are there assessments that we can do, that kind of?
Right. And for families who want to make a referral, they can go to ohioearlyintervention.org, and there is a link for families to actually go on and make a referral themselves.
Oh, okay.
On the web, or they can call our office, and we can definitely take a referral from them or talk to their physician.
Okay. So the referral could be an easy process.
Yes.
Correct.
Not-
And when they age out of the early intervention program, they move into the SSA side of it.
And that's, I
Service
want to
and Support
talk about all the
Administration.
services and how it
Correct.
flows, so just go for it.
So as soon as, when they, I'm going to use the term age out, and right around 2.5, like Margaret was saying, they would also make a referral to the SSA department to determine if the family wants to continue on with, in a
Tell me what
sense,
SSA is.
Service and Support Administration.
Okay.
The easiest way to, it's like case management.
Okay, perfect.
They changed the name, state changed the name, we follow what they say. So.
Right, okay.
So basically, we will assign them a children's SSA who will stay with them until approximately 10, 12 years old, which point they'll be transferred over to a transition age SSA that will help them with like future employment thoughts. What are they going to do after school? What are they going to start studying while they're in school? They go to IEP meetings with them. And then when they graduate school, which is anywhere between the ages of 18 and 22, they'll be assigned an adult SSA who will remain with them through the course of
Gotcha.
their life.
So you said you're with them from birth all the
Through
way
end of
through
life.
through end of
Yep.
life, and so they can transition and help with all the phases, and every situation is probably different.
Yes.
And so you said the experts, that's what they do. Now this is happening, or this isn't happening like it would happen. Okay.
Right.
That's why you're there.
Yeah, it
Awesome.
is. It
All right,
is.
I think we're going to take this opportunity. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back talking about developmental disabilities in Ottawa County. So referral process is very simple. There's not a lot of hoops to jump through. It's just a phone call, looking something up on the website, and then somebody comes along and kind of holds your hand through the process. And you kind of started to talk about how then they transition into different age groups. How many people would you say are you serving right now in Ottawa County?
I would
Because
say
you
we-
reach you're all for the whole
Correct.
county.
East to
Okay.
west, north to south.
Okay.
I want to say we serve approximately 400 people.
Okay.
A large number of those people are receiving Medicaid waivers.
Okay.
The ages range anywhere from 3 years old to, I believe we have a guy in his mid-90s.
Okay.
So it's a wide variety of people that need a lot of different services and supports, with our goal of keeping them as independent as possible in the
Right.
community.
We were kind of talking when the camera was off about how there are some people out there who have not ever been hooked up necessarily with the Board of Developmental Disabilities. The family just wrapped around them and took care of everything, and
Yes.
so kind of never went into any programs or anything, but might be eligible, just
Correct.
kind of depending. How do you reach out to those, or that's what we're doing now?
Well, usually what happens is when there's a family crisis, or their caregivers have an illness and they all of a sudden decided they are unable to care for the person anymore. Mom or dad could be in their 70s, the child could be, when I use the term child, their child would be in their 50s, and the assumption would be that maybe a sibling was going to take care of them. The sibling, goes on with their own life, and all of a sudden, we get this call to say, hey, we have this person who we think is eligible, mom and dad can't care for him, what can you do?
Right.
One of the biggest problems we have with that is finding the collateral information to determine eligibility. We would have to get old school records, old medical records, because we have to have the qualifying diagnosis prior to the age of 22.
Right.
So, the thing is one of the things we're working on is, families don't have to receive our services. It's voluntary. But what we like is, all right, we determine eligibility, we have you in our books, you're there, and then you can do whatever you want, and then when you need something in the future, that's when you give us a call.
I mean, that's very reasonable that parents take care of their children, but
Yes.
we all get older,
Yeah.
and eventually they can't do it anymore. So even if you could do, you know, the initial assessments and all that, like you said, and you don't necessarily have to have any outside services. You can do it all on your, you know, on your own if you want.
And there's a lot of, I'm going to use the term individual service plans that we look at, and it says, you know, where do you live? I live at home with mom and dad. Do you ever plan on moving? No. Eventually, it's going to happen.
Right.
And you know, the thing is they may not need any supports now, or maybe drop-in supports where maybe a provider would come in and take them into the community to do activities or to doctor's appointments and stuff like that. But in a sense, when a person ages, their services tend to go up
Sure.
and not go down.
Right.
So once again, it's good to have the person, I'm going to use the term, in the system before you need the services, because then it's a scramble to try to get all the information around to determine
Yes,
eligibility.
it is. Yes, it is. I can speak to that. So we talked a little bit about funding, but talk a little bit more about some of the services that you do for either with early intervention. You kind of talked about how you can go into schools or grocery stores or daycares, different environments where there
Right.
might be experiencing issues. Just talk about all your services.
Right. So besides the early intervention services that we offer, we do have a program called Family Support Services, and that is a program that offers assistance to families who have an individual that lives in the home that's eligible for county board services, and it provides some funding for such things as a specialized diet. So if a child or an adult has a specialized diet that they're on, that funding can help
Okay.
with that, as well as funding for respite services. That could be an in-home respite, or maybe going to an outside provider that provides some respite services. And then there's also home modification. So if there is maybe a need for a widening of a doorway because the child is in a wheelchair, or for instance, maybe there is specialized equipment needed for an individual. We can help out with those type of things through family support services.
Okay.
Yes.
What are some of the-
And then when a person ages up, like I said, a lot of times we work with transition age youth. There's been times we help with driving instruction, not us personally, but we provide the funding for driving instruction. With employment supports, if somebody's getting a job in the community and they need a job coach or job training, we do a lot of that. Like in the past, one of the options, well, when they graduate, they're going to go to workshop. That's, a lot of times in IEP meetings, we always heard that. That's not the first goal we want. The first goal is for a person to get a job in the community. When you go to workshop, you have multiple things that they do there. The first one's called Adult Day Service. That is just activity-based. It can be in the community. It can be at a fixed facility or location. And then you have VOCAB, which is vocational rehabilitation type services, where they learn the basic work skills, soft skills, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then you can move into it like a group employment supports, where they take a group of people into the community to work. They might do janitorial work or something like that. And then you have more individualized employment supports. Okay. And basically what it is the SSA will sit down with the person and people that are important to the person, and they'll run through an assessment. Everything's got paperwork. But it helps us determine what the person needs. And then we develop an individual service plan based upon that, and it outline the services and supports that the person will get. We have people that are community employed without support, so obviously we're not going to talk about employment. Right. But they may need help with daily living skills, or somebody to help them pay their bills or something like that. But with all the supports and services, there's a cost involved.
Sure.
For example, to send somebody to Dayhab and to provide transportation for that person to get to Dayhab every day, it's about $20,000 a year per person. Residential support, it's so much per unit, which is every 15 minutes. So we have a lot of people receiving a lot of different services and supports in this community. And one of the things we had to do to make our dollar go further is to get the Medicaid waiver system involved in it.
Sure. Okay.
Unfortunately, anytime you involve the federal government, it just makes everything a paperwork nightmare. Yeah. So we utilize 3 different waivers. We utilize, it's called Level 1 waiver, the self waiver, and then the individual options waiver. Basically, what that allows us to do is we pay a match. So for every dollar we spend, for every dollar that is spent on services, we only have to pay about $40 of that.
Okay.
So for example, I want to say we spend approximately $3 million a year to provide services and supports to people in Ottawa County, but that draws in another $5 million. So in turn, we have $8 million worth of services and supports being provided in this county and neighboring counties. Just, if somebody chooses to go to a day hub that's in an adjacent county, that also occurs.
Okay.
But like I said, without utilizing those waivers, I mean, it's something that it would have bankrupted us a long time ago.
Right.
But
Or the families or.
correct, because I mean, if you have somebody that lives by themselves with 24/7 supports, you're looking to the tune of $120,000, $150,000 a year. So I mean, that gets quite expensive. But if you only have to pay 40% of that,
Right.
it's a lot better.
Right,
So.
so you work with all those funding
Correct.
systems to make that work. And
Yeah.
again, that's where you guys come in, you kind of know.
Correct. And we look at the services and supports that people want. We might have somebody that lives at home with mom and dad still, that all they do is go to like a day hab site or something like that. So we're not going to put them on an IO waiver, which covers a lot more services and supports. They may be
Gotcha.
on an individual budget where it's a direct pay from the county board to the provider, or like a level 1 option, level 1 waiver would pay that 40%. And then it would fund that service.
And all of this is just to kind of prop people up. I need a little help here, I need a little help
Correct.
here. I want to work, I want to volunteer, I want to be in a civic organization or do different things, but everybody probably needs something a little
I
bit
mean,
different.
there's some people that need 24/7 supports,
Sure.
and we have a lot of people out there, they just need drop-in supports, or somebody to help them with their bill paying, their grocery shopping.
Right.
So what it is we have contracts with, obviously, either direct service provider agencies or independent providers throughout the county.
Okay.
And what it is it'll be funded through the waiver or by the county board directly, and they'll send staff people into the home to work with the person.
Gotcha.
So,
So they're there to kind of wrap around the person.
correct.
Right,
All
right.
And so the transitions just continue all the way from birth, seniors, and you said you have somebody in their 90s, so
Correct. He still lives in a home in the community with 3 roommates.
great.
Yeah.
And you just go in and provide whatever is needed.
He's
Probably
actually-
changes over there.
Correct. Actually, the home he lives in has 24/7 staff.
Gotcha.
So when he's there, there's always somebody there with
Gotcha.
him.
Okay.
And a lot of times that's going to be dictated by just general medical needs, like, I'm going to say anybody.
Well, sure.
So, I mean, it's just, the level of support.
Yeah.
The whole idea is it's supposed to be the least restrictive environment.
Okay.
So, and when we talk about all the adaptive functioning and stuff like that, I think our overall goal is to make somebody not eligible. That's EI's goal, is to make them not eligible.
Right.
By the time they get done with EI, they should no longer have those delays to a certain
The
degree.
ideal outcome is,
Right.
That's the ideal outcome, and that is the ideal outcome as a person ages too. So,
Sure.
if the person can't do their own bill paying, what can we do to help teach them how to do their own bill
Right.
paying? And that way, the direct service staff can back out of that.
gotcha. All right. What is something, we have just about a minute or two left, but what is something that you just wish people knew about either people with developmental disabilities or the Board of Developmental Disabilities? I wish people would know this.
So I think that people with disabilities want to be treated just like you and I are treated. And they want to live out in the community, and they want to be in the community, and that's one thing that we, strongly advocate for them. So if they want to, go bowling on a Friday night, we're going to try to help them
Right.
find someone to go bowling with them on a Friday night. We want employers out there to understand that, hey, they are just as employable as you and I are. So, if there are employers out there that would like to be connected with someone with a disability, they can contact us as well. But we say that, our community is better together, so.
That's right. Anything?
I think one of the big things is that with us no longer being a provider of service,
Right.
a lot of times it confuses people. We may not provide the service, but we provide the funding and oversight for the service. And I think just the far-reaching effect. I mean, you have how many jobs that are out there in the community that are funded through the Ottawa County Board of DD.
That's true.
You have workshop workers, you have people that work in the homes, you have employment coaches, and
Right.
that all ties into the DD funding system.
Right.
And a lot of times if people say, well, what do you guys do? You're not Riverview, or you're not Okta, or you're not one of these
Right.
agencies that used to be part of the county board.
Right.
It's the fact that we are still paying for those services to
Right.
be funded. So
And you're, correct me if I'm wrong, and this, I don't want to, open a can of worms or anything, but you're not allowed to be the provider of every service because
Correct.
you approve it and you pay for it. It would be,
yeah, it's you're writing the check and you're making sure you're doing
Right.
the service and
Right.
you're checking up on the service you're
right.
providing. So
I'm
it's-
doing a great job.
Yeah, exactly. So what it is we don't provide the services anymore,
Okay.
but we do authorize the payment for the service and we monitor the service.
Awesome. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to take another break and I'll be right back. And we're back. I want to thank Jim and Margaret for being our guests today. Learning about developmental disabilities in Ottawa County has a long history. It has changed a bunch over the years, and they just do fantastic work. So if anybody has questions for them, if they want to make a referral or just learn a little bit more information, there's several ways to contact them. Their phone number is 419-898-0400. You can go to their website at www.ocbdd.org, and they also have a Facebook page, Ottawa County Board of Developmental Disabilities on Facebook. So take that information, whether it's useful for you or if you know somebody that you'd like to share it with, please spread the word. Reach out to them if you have any questions. And if you have any ideas about a future episode or just want to reach out and ask questions, you can reach me at Magruder Hospital or you can reach Carla Pels at Port Clinton City Schools. And until we meet again, I encourage you to make time for health.